while I was setting up, I'm ready to meet with you, and then it died, and then my charger wouldn't recharge, so I had to run, grab a different computer, re-download everything.
Right.
But I am ready.
All right.
That scared the crap out of me.
I was like sitting here on my plan. I'm like, okay, like what can I talk about if I have to do this solo? Like, can I fill up 20 minutes?
Yeah, that it really makes you appreciate working with somebody else because doing
for sure
is I wouldn't know if I'd be able to do that. Just talk to myself for an hour. I mean,
I used to do it back in college. I had like a 1 hour radio show each week, and I was by myself for 1 year, and that was you have to do way more prep than
right.
and like doing it with a team or something.
Right.
So I figured we kind of start off. We just, I think, kind of glance at the McCarthy stuff. Just like hot seat stuff. I mean, like that's kind of the prevailing topic.
You got all of the free agency, all the free agents at the end of the year. I have where both the offense and defenses are ranked so far this season. I have, of course, the Clinton Dix fiasco. And then, of course, I looked at all the rivals in the NFC where they are and stuff like that because people tend to always focus just on the NFC North, but a lot of other divisions, people need to look after.
Yeah. So I figured we just briefly hit McCarthy if we have anything we kind of want to hit on that, at all.
I'll ask you this right now, just if you want to add this. They make the wild card round and lose. Does he keep his job? Or do you think he should?
I think he should.
If they get to the wild card at least and lose?
I personally I'm starting to get to a point where there's not a whole lot that I would be able to there's a lot that I would have to see before I say keep Mike McCarthy next year.
So are you for McCarthy or are you against him or?
Again, I'm leaning toward against. More so just it's not anything that I think really he does completely wrong. I think that there's a bit of a staleness with the offense, and I would like to see a little bit more creativity.
Yeah.
But I think also it's just gotten to a point where now it's kind of like what some of the players have said about like Pete Carroll. It's like you can hear the same thing over and over again, and the first couple times it works and gets you going, and like after like the 10th time, I'm gonna stop listening to you because there's just it's like over and over and over again, and sometimes you just need a breath of fresh air. And I think that if you are starting to make moves looking toward the future, you've got to move past this.
Yeah.
Well, no offense, remembering all that he did for us, but I mean,
can't live in the past.
Right. You can't let the past weigh you down from moving from growing.
Yep. If you live in the past, you're not really living.
Yeah. So when we jump into the free agent stuff, like I said, there's like a couple of them that they're free agents this year, but I don't think that we really need to spend time on them.
Yeah, like Allison, you said.
Allison, Whitehead, I just kind of expect to be back because I think that he was probably like one of your starting safeties, before before injuries and stuff like that. So
not just that, but Clinton Dix and Kenshaw Bryce too. So it's almost like you can't all three walk.
Right. So. Yeah. So I've got those. I figure we just kind of hit on those. We don't need to spend I don't think we need to spend like a ton of time on all of them, but if there's like one or, a couple of them that you have a lot on or you feel strongly about, like I've got a couple of points about each that we can just kind of expand on and just play with it. And then kind of, if we want, wrap up with like a look around the NFC.
Yeah, sure.
That works. Cool. All right. Let me get my timer set up.
You still have the dog?
No, they came. Thankfully, they came back last night, and they thought it was funny that he was here and he was peeing all over my house, but I didn't. So thankfully, he's fucking gone. But I am actually getting we're getting our own puppy, like a puppy, on Friday. So I'm interested to see how that.
I once got a puppy. I had to get rid of that thing right away.
Really?
When I left over one weekend, the first time I let that thing alone, that damn thing tore my entire place apart, shit everywhere, and starved to death.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
I was gonna say, like, you just like said that so nonchalantly.
Yeah, I'm totally joking. Usually when people start to turn on me when I kill a puppy with neglect.
Right.
I won't say that on the air.
That's all we need. All right. Let's start this and we'll get going. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Pack a Day podcast, your only source for Packers news every single day in podcast form. Dan Koenig, Chris Schimmel here with you today. Thanks for joining us. We are discussing, the prevailing topic obviously is what kind of DEF CON we are at after the Detroit Lions game on Sunday, if depending on who you talk to, where I always forget how the DEF CON system works. I always just like to say it because it makes me sound, smart if I talk about DEF CON system, but I always forget if DEF CON 1 or DEF CON 5 is the bad one. But it's all across the scale. Depending on who you talk to, it's either everyone needs to be fired immediately or just a couple of things need to be tweaked. But the one prevailing thing, Chris, that's kind of come out of it, and we want to touch on it just briefly, we know that the guys have talked about it a couple of times the last two episodes, but just briefly, Mike McCarthy his seat seems to be heating up just a little bit after that Detroit game. And I think that this week coming up especially is a must win. And then it's really interesting to see what happens in the next coming weeks as we get ready for that really tough stretch that we kind of hit on last week with the Rams and the Patriots and the Seahawks in there. So your opinions, Mike McCarthy, hot seat or not?
Absolutely, he's on the hot seat. He's been on the hot seat since last year. After Rodgers went down, he saw how poor they were. Mm-hmm. So he's been on the hot seat, I feel, for a while. And, of course, Joe Philbin coming back, all this hype about, he was the offensive coordinator for a long time. They've been a top 10 pass offense every year. He was in control. And this team doesn't look any different. There was all this whole, they're revamping the playbook. Well, revamping the playbook doesn't mean a thing if your philosophy is the same. So, yeah, I do think he's on the hot seat. And I see this as possibly, even if it's a one-and-done season in the playoffs, I still would consider that a total failure, and I think his job should be on the line.
See, I think for me, this is the first time that for me personally, this is the first time that he's been on the actual hot seat. I think last year was kind of an indictment more on Ted Thompson and his inability to draft or keep weapons and players around this team and around Aaron Rodgers to be successful without him. I think that was really kind of the stark thing that stood out after last year. McCarthy obviously got some of that blame too, failing to, rework things around these new players like Brett Hundley. But yeah, I agree. This is the first time that I really think Mike McCarthy on the hot seat. For me, I'm a Boston Celtics fan, and I see Mike head coach Brad Stevens the last several years, before the last couple of years when he got all of this talent, he really did a lot with nothing. And that's why everyone talks about him being such a great innovative coach. I see Mike McCarthy with a lot not doing really what he should just basically be doing. And that's winning road division games like this past week against Detroit.
Yeah, I understand that. But first thing I need to comment is you're from Ohio, right?
Yeah.
And you're in Detroit, but you're a Packer fan and a Celtic fan?
I'm a Celtics fan. I'm a Bruins fan.
Whoa. You're all over the country.
I am actually a Tigers fan, though. That was before I even moved to Detroit. I am a Detroit Tigers fan, so
okay.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm not. I swear I'm not bandwagoning. I mean, that's been from the get go. All of those teams through thick and thin has been my team, so I stick with them as we go. But yeah, I agree. I can see. I get that question all the time.
But about McCarthy, winning these tough division road matches on the road, what good coaches do is they make bad players average, average players good players great, and great players Hall of Famers.
Right.
And that was the whole point of, of the West Coast offense. When Bill Walsh created it, he didn't create it because he wanted to revolutionize the game. He created it just to make his team competitive. And I feel McCarthy is desperately trying to find a way to do that with this team. Because I think it pains me to say this, but do you think this team is going to take a couple of years to rebuild, especially with all these free agents coming up at the end of the year? I feel like this is going to take a couple of years, and it's going to be hard to do this without signing at least one or two key free agents.
Oh, I would definitely think so. Actually, that kind of brings up something I almost wanted to touch on was the record right now, 2-2-1, the same exact record as the Cleveland Browns. And right now, I'm not speaking strictly out of talent, because the Packers, if you look at up and down the line, I think just have a little bit more, have the edge on pure talent, especially Aaron Rodgers, offensive line. There's more talented players on either side, but really at 2-2-1, either one, I don't think it's out of the question to say that the Browns roster isn't in a better position for the next 5 years than what the Packers is right now.
One of the keys to that, I think, is the fact that the Browns have a lot of ex-Packers management wise.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
on the team they have and really think of it this way: you take Aaron Rodgers off the Packers. Would you say that not even the Browns, but teams like the Bears have a better overall roster than they do?
Oh, for sure.
And that's what's scary. That's why I think that it's going to take a couple of years to rebuild, get a couple of free agents. And it's scary seeing all the amount of free agents they have coming up. When I saw the list of names, my eyes kind of popped out of my head.
It is, and that's why I go back to this again. I don't want to keep going back to this well, but it keeps coming back up. This is why I think when the Khalil Mack trade got made to the Bears, and I saw kind of really in hindsight what you would have had to give up, it really didn't make sense, and it really makes a lot more sense to keep those draft picks and look to the future a little bit. I know that there's a win now mentality, and I know you want to get Aaron Rodgers one more Super Bowl ring before he's done, but can you imagine the free agents and everything that are coming up, not even just this year, but the next 2 years? The next 2 years is huge. I mean, it's almost your entire offensive line. I think almost everybody in the wide receiving core that matters. I mean, there's almost everything, and there's no way you would have been able to pay a Khalil Mack and an Aaron Rodgers. And as much as he deserves it, it really puts the Packers in a tough bind how much you're paying Aaron Rodgers.
And also, it's scary to think that this is probably the first time in a while where there's more holes on the offense than on the defense.
True. Yeah.
That's what's scary, because on defense, right now, it's all pass rush. Offensively, wide receivers, they're going to have to replace, same with tight ends. And now you have offensive line, because I only see Bakhtiari and Corey Linsley being the only really core linemen they have.
Well, the only ones that you can depend on, at least consistently. Well, I guess to be fair, the entire offensive line has played the last 2 weeks complete. So that for what it's worth, there is something there. But we talk about the free agents. Chris, today's episode, we wanted to really hit on the free agent class coming up this year. Who could be on the hot seat free agent-wise? Mike McCarthy, you could say, coaching for his job this year. There's players playing for a job this coming year. And it really kind of came about with the news today breaking from Jason Wild reporting about Clinton Dix. He had mentioned that he doesn't really expect to be back here next year. He's considering this whole year as being sort of a resume. Every game could be his last. Yeah, a job interview.
I liked what he said, and I also didn't. I liked the fact that he said that he said he's going to play this year as if he's not going to be back next year, meaning he's going to have to give it his all every single game.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, he has some screw up, some big errors, especially last week. I remember the touchdown he gave up. Kevin King wanted inside help, and Clinton nowhere to be seen. He also had some great plays. It's crazy. He's tied for the league lead in interceptions. He has 3 passes defended, about halfway to what he did all of last year, and it's just crazy to think that. But at the same time, he's had some missed tackles. But do you think he's going to be able to bounce back?
Well, that's the big question for me, is because right now, if this is your job interview, you're getting pretty close to. I think you're getting pretty close to Step Brothers interview level. I think some of those numbers, the interceptions, things like that, are a little bit inflated. I think
the whole Packers defensive rankings are inflated right now.
Yeah, all over, and I think that if he turns it around, he gets it figured out, he can make things interesting when it comes time to make a decision. And I don't automatically write him off with this comment. I think that the comment, has to be kind of taken with a grain of salt and in context a little bit, because I think you're right. I think it's more just about his future.
Yeah, I think he's trying to motivate himself. And what I think it really comes down to is is there going to be a sucker franchise out there who's going to overpay like crazy for him, that the Packers are going to say, no way we're going to match that?
I think that's the biggest question, is if he's able to turn this around, that's when it becomes very interesting, because that there's going to be a team out there that is going to say, oh, what are they going to pay you? That's it. Come on over here. And there's going to be a limit. There's a pretty, it's a pretty low ceiling compared, if you, consider what he is, being a long-term veteran in this league and a Pro Bowler at that position.
And talking about re-signing free agents, in hindsight, would you have re-signed Morgan Burnett?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it all comes again down to money. If the money is able to make it work, I don't remember exactly how much he went to the Steelers for. And he's also dealing with a bit of an injury bug this year as well. So, you kind of wonder how worth it would be if he had been able to stay healthy. But also to the safety position, Kentrell Brice is a free agent after this year. What do you make of him?
Well, right now, I think he's had so far pretty terrible season so far to begin with. But what's crazy is the fact that Clinton Dix, Brice, and Whitehead are all free agents. You can't let all 3 of them go.
Right.
Then, because you're thinking, all right, you have 2 first-round draft picks. People are thinking pass rush. You don't want to add safety into the mix.
Right.
It was like, what was it? It was a couple 2013. Packers need a safety. Then they got Clinton Dix. They don't want to have to restart rebuilding the defensive backfield. So they're going to bring back one of them. But if they're going to bring back one of them, I don't think it should be Brice.
I would say I think it depends on what Whitehead's situation is after this year, because he's dealing with injury this year, which is why Brice has been playing that amount. And the thing I think is it's money again.
Yeah.
Because Kentrell Brice, if you get into a situation where you get into a bidding war for Clinton Dix, Kentrell Brice is there, and he has not played very well this year, but he's still a veteran that knows your system and is playing, valuable minutes back there, and he's going to be a lot cheaper than Clinton Dix.
Yeah, you might be changing my mind right now. Yeah. It all comes down, it's so hard to make these predictions.
Right.
Anything can happen, because it's also crazy that we're already more than a quarter of the way through the season. You wait all year. But then also, when it comes to free safety, is we're talking about these guys, and we almost completely forgot about Josh Jones.
Yeah, and then he's not he's not a free agent, but when you bring up the safety position,
yeah, that's what I mean. Should they bring these guys back because you don't have the confidence in Josh Jones? Because whenever you hear him, it's usually for something bad, like the penalty on the special teams, a wiped out Ty Montgomery's huge return, and he's 220. He's a big guy, so I thought they'd play him more as an inside linebacker, especially with Jake Ryan out, but he's not even seeing the field.
Yeah, and there was a great article on Acme Packing Company today, or yesterday, kind of talking about that, the lack of playing time that he's seen, especially with the struggle in that safety position. Staying on the defensive side, Chris, Devon House,
Gone.
obviously gone.
Gone.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty straightforward.
Gone. People only remember one play of his, and that was the huge touchdown against Minnesota. He's gone. He left the Packers, had that great year with Jacksonville, and then gone.
I also think, too, a free agent after this year, he hasn't played yet, but Bashaud Breeland kind of plays into the situation, too. If Breeland comes back and is even serviceable, that's the absolute nail in the coffin for Devon House.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Another player dealing with a season-ending injury, Jake Ryan on the IR. He didn't get to play at all this year, got injured in the preseason. What do you think about his? I mean, Blake Martinez has come in and done a fairly good job at that middle linebacker role.
Oh, yeah, he tied the league lead in tackles last season. He's leading the team in tackles this season. And if I would have told you that at the beginning of the year, 5 games into the season, that Blake Martinez and Fackrell would be leading the team in sacks, what would you think?
I would think that something had gone terribly wrong, as it almost seems like it has.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's like, so who would be Blake Martinez's sidekick? Morrison hasn't been getting it done.
Well, I think that's the question mark, is no one has really stepped up and taken that role away from Jake Ryan yet.
Yeah, I know. Under Jake Ryan, he's not the fastest guy. He's the stereotypical traditional inside linebacker who is great at run stopping, but he's not a sideline to sideline guy. You're not going to match him up with tight ends. So I really feel that it's going to be, it's not. I don't think he's going to be coming back because he's so valuable. I feel like he'd come back because they need a body in there. I don't. The old saying is you don't leave a job until you have another one.
Right.
Same kind of thing I feel with Jake Ryan. Can't get rid of him until you really have a solid replacement, because he knows the system and he's solid. I mean, it's nothing special, but he's still a solid football player.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's not a great endorsement for Jake Ryan, but it's really not a great endorsement for the guys that they have backing him up or to take his place. Oren Burks hasn't really wowed me yet. I know that he hasn't got a ton of
he's rusty
looks. Yeah, he's a rookie. He's still kind of learning the NFL ways. I think that he'll develop as the year goes on, but as we're sitting right now, hasn't blown me away yet.
Yeah, he's a rookie and he's rusty. He missed a whole lot of time, but hopefully his coverage abilities really come out in the next few weeks.
Offensively, free agents. Let's start on the offensive line. One of them, Byron Bell. I know you've got strong opinions about the offensive line. Byron Bell coming back.
I will give them
prospect of coming back.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt that the offensive line has played better lately. And a lot of the times, as Rodgers, a lot of them were covered sacks. Rodgers held onto the ball too long, didn't hit open receivers. That's not on the line. But once again, I hate saying this, and I know the listeners are going to get pissed hearing this constantly, but it really depends on how he does down the stretch. Right now, I'm putting a question mark by Byron Bell.
I think actually right now for me, Byron Bell might be a guy that I'm one of the few that I'm actually leaning more towards saying keep him again for next year, because the best ability is availability. And they've had the last 2 weeks at least the same offensive line. Things seem to be kind of working. If at the very least you've got chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And also Byron Bell with a group with an offense that's kind of, been hit with the penalty bug.
Mm-hmm.
He has not been flagged for a penalty this year.
Wow.
Which is I think a pretty big thing when you look at Balaga has at least 2 false starts. I think there's 2 holds thrown in there. I know Bakhtiari has had a hold thrown on him. Byron Bell in the middle of that offensive line has yet to see a flag called in his name, which I think, for me at least, speaks leaps and bounds for an offense and a team as a whole that has really been hit with penalties big this year.
Yeah. Switching gears, tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Really big. Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I can't tell, because why bother re-signing him if you don't even use him anyway?
Exactly. I think that's almost a question more for both sides, the Packers and Mercedes Lewis.
Yeah.
Because why would I stick around if I'm Lewis if you're not going to work me into the offense?
Exactly. And I was excited for him coming in because he's such a great blocker. If Rodgers has an injured knee and he needs extra protection, you'd think they'd use him, except you're seeing Kendricks out there. And also, Kendricks, no.
He's a free agent this year, too. I'm wondering why he's still around. Why? Are you still here, Lance Kendricks?
Oh, my. I would – one of the biggest things in the offseason that I'll actually look is to see what sucker team picks him up.
Somebody picked up Brandon Bostic. Somebody's going to take Lance Kendricks.
Okay, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's even more thing. Another thing the Packers are going to have to rebuild. Geez, so not only on the defense with pass rush and safety, but now you have tight end.
Well, I think with tight end, you hope that Jimmy Graham can sort of work into this offense more, and there's hope with Robert Tonyan as well.
Well, yeah, speaking of which, come on, get him out there. I want to see something.
Played 4 snaps this past week, but obviously wasn't targeted at all. Yeah. Staying kind of in that backfield in the offense, Ty Montgomery. Another.
I know you've had strong opinions on Ty Montgomery.
They stay strong.
They stay strong. Okay. Well, think of it this way. Do you think a lot of what happens at Ty Montgomery, you have to look at Randall Cobb? Geronimo Allison's going to be coming back. Cobb's going to be gone. Would you bring Ty Montgomery back to keep him permanently at a wide receiver position just in case any of these rookies don't pan out?
No.
No?
No, I wouldn't.
Can't persuade you?
No, I think there's just he's just been lost in the shuffle at this point. You drafted all these wide receivers. You need to give them the opportunity to pan out and show you something. Cobb hopefully back this week along with Allison, so that kind of again limits the amount of time you're going to see from these rookie wideouts. So you've got to move forward with the future, and your future is these guys, these young draft picks that you have as wide receivers. Ty Montgomery now has spent 2 full seasons at least at the running back position.
Yeah.
And we already know how much wear and tear that puts on you as a player being in the running back position. I know that he's gotten some help recently with, being able to kind of rotate in with the other running backs, but still, I think that he's just kind of, he's lost to me now. I feel like he's just been lost in the shuffle of this offense unless you find some way to really make things work. And Mike McCarthy has not shown me that he can really scheme for a specific player to find him a way to execute in this offense. And also I think as well too, looking in the future, I really think you trade Ty Montgomery now. You trade him and get something back because there's obviously holes everywhere and you need draft picks. I know that sounds like Ted Thompson talk. You can try me at the Salem Witch Trials for it.
No. Ted Thompson would have re-signed him. That's what Ted Thompson would have done. He would have said, we keep our own guys who know our system, even though they don't really play. We're going to keep them. Ted Thompson would have kept him. All right. Same thing with like Clay Matthews. Should have traded him a couple of years ago to get some value for him. I agree with you. If you know you're going to get rid of the guy, might as well try to get something. I don't care if it's a 6th round pick.
Definitely. You bring up Clay Matthews there. We almost kind of forgot about him on the defensive side. He's a free agent.
That's because he's forgettable. Think about it. He has half a sack. That is that is the worst start in his career. Through 5 games, half a sack. He also has only 12 tackles. That's tied for his 2nd fewest to start a season. And I think I had a statistic with me that Clay Matthews and Nick Perry have combined for 423 snaps and have 3 sacks. That's once every 141 plays. And how much of the salary cap are they taking up?
True. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just saying ridiculous. He should be gone. That's why I said that you should have traded him a couple of years ago, and they overpaid Nick Perry and, of course, TJ Watt is leading the league in sacks. So, yeah.
It always comes back to TJ Watt. And whenever you are talking about this, it will always come back to TJ Watt. And I think, too, you've seen flashes of what Reggie Gilbert can be. I would really like to kind of see what he can do more. I know we've kind of vouched for him seeing more playing time over Clay Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
And Reggie Gilbert even rated higher than Clay Matthews on Pro Football Focus.
Oh, yeah.
The numbers are showing that he's playing better with less.
And once again, we did the preseason game number 1. If I told you Kyler Fackrell would have the most sacks of all their outside linebackers at this point, you'd probably be saying, what, is everyone else on injured reserve? What's going on?
Yeah. So I the only thing that I think keeps him around is some sort of loyalty to a veteran like that. I know that's Ted Thompson, like you said. I just wonder, how much does this front office value veteran, experience like that? And with that too, Randall Cobb, another guy that kind of fits into that same situation, a player that a lot of fans have been calling to see go. He's a free agent this year. I think I don't really see that as much. I don't really want to see him go unless you are saying it is a complete 100% overhaul of this offense.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the problems I have with this offense, specifically red zone wise, they're 23rd in the league at 50%. Last year at this time, they were first, over 72%. The only team above 70. And whenever I watch them, it's all ISO routes, no scheme to try to get them open. It's like McCarthy's calling the plays as if it's 2011, where Rodgers can go to line of scrimmage and he'd say, okay, the number 1 corner's on Jordy. He's good. Number 2 corner's on Jennings. He's good. There's no way their number 3 corner is better than James Jones. There's no way the number 4 corner would beat Donald Driver. So I'll pick on the number 3 and 4 corners all day. Can't do that anymore. And yet they're running the same ISO routes and he's not being creative. So I really would like to see a revamp of all this offense. The only problem, though, is I don't see that happening with McCarthy still calling the shots.
True. And I think, again, it just kind of goes back to the veteran thing. He's a security blanket for Aaron. You saw how kind of lost this offense was without a veteran, a real veteran presence. I know Devontae Adams has kind of taken that number 1 wide receiver role, but really it's Randall Cobb and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the guy was the best man at his wedding. Like, that has, like, you've got to have chemistry if you're doing that, and that there's just some kind of security blanket thing there. And so maybe if moving forward, do you want to maybe piss off Aaron Rodgers again, because he didn't really seem too happy after you let Jordy Nelson go? Yeah,
that's going to be really, really, really interesting. And there's already enough articles out there right now about Rodgers' relationship with McCarthy. If Rodgers gets pissed that Cobb's gone, it's going to be a real disaster blow up for the media.
Yeah, so that's our kind of look at the free agent situation for the Packers moving forward into this year. Something just to keep an eye on as we sit here on Mike McCarthy Watch. You're always looking to see what players are making the case to come back this year. And as we kind of wrap up, Chris, we wanted to also kind of just do a quick overview the NFC as a whole, because I think we've kind of fallen into an area now with things escalating in Packer land that we've become very focused on what the Packers are doing at the moment. But as a whole, overall, the NFC, how it looks, not just the NFC North, but the NFC as a whole, I think.
I'd say that right now the Rams are by far the best.
True.
And then also, I know the Saints almost laid an egg against Cleveland, but I'd say that they're probably the second best. And the teams that I'm really looking at are the Eagles, the Vikings, Panthers, and the Bears. And the crazy thing is the Eagles are playing the Giants, so they can go 3-3. Vikings are playing the Cardinals. There's a win.
Yeah.
And the Bears are playing the Dolphins. It's scary that the Bears might start 4-1. So if those 3 teams win, that makes this week even bigger week for the Packers.
Yeah, and I'll say this about the Bears too. And this is not just, I'm not trying to come off as being anti-Chicago because I'm a Packer fan, but really, who have the Bears played?
Exactly.
Their wins are against Tampa Bay once the Fitz magic ran off, Arizona. I had these all listed. I mean, they're all Seattle, a struggling Seattle team, and now you've got the Dolphins coming in, who are perennial egg layers. I mean, the one test that you've had was that opening night game against the Packers, and you lost it.
Yeah, you played one half. So they played only one good half against an actual good team. So you have the Eagles will probably win, the Vikings will win, the Bears will win. And then the two teams that are both at 2-3, Cowboys and Seahawks. Cowboys are playing the Jaguars. I see the Jaguars are going to want to have to, are probably drooling to get back on the field after getting killed by them. Seahawks are playing the Raiders, so that's up there. And the Panthers are playing the Redskins. The Panthers are 3-1, so you'd like to see the Redskins come out and beat the Panthers.
Yeah, definitely. For me, right now, it's the NFC almost kind of looks like the SEC right now. You've got Alabama up at the top with the Rams, and then it's who's playing for second.
Yep.
At this point, because the second best team I thought in the NFC was Minnesota, and they got handled against that Rams team. I know it was a shootout. It ended up being a shootout, but the Rams were in control of that entire game.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's who finishes second to the Rams right now in the NFC.
And that's why it's so important to see who these teams are playing. And that's why it's crazy that the Eagles, Vikings, and Bears are playing poor opponents, which means the Packers really need to win this game going into the bye.
Yeah, a Monday night game against the San Francisco 49ers, back home at Lambeau, where they have not lost yet.
Yeah, no Jimmy Garoppolo either. So still can't underestimate him because, Kyle Shanahan can still do wonders.
Exactly. You never want to take a team for granted, especially coming into a Monday night game like that. Anything happens, in those late night games, especially Monday night against I wouldn't say it's a main rival, but there's always some history there when you bring in the 49ers on a late night game like that. Make sure you're listening for the rest of the week, the weekend, Sunday and Monday especially. Have those previews looking forward ahead to that game. Listen all throughout the week, and afterwards, like we said, the only everyday Packers podcast out there, the Pack-A-Day podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Follow myself and Chris on Twitter as well, at DK All The Way, at Chris Schimmel. Follow both of us as we, like I said, last week as we were doing the preview, lament during all the games. Come lament with us on Twitter and social media. It's going to be a lot of fun. For my partner, Chris Schimmel, I'm Dan Koenig, signing off from the Pack-A-Day podcast with, as always, Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Let me see what our time was real quick.
That was pretty long, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, we went long. It was almost 32 minutes. Damn. Yeah.
Well, it was good, though. I think
it was good. That's the thing is I think we tend to ramble. We don't ramble. We go long, but I don't think we ramble.
No, we don't ramble. We don't just talk gibberish. Everything we talk about has something to do.
Yeah.
With the main topic. So hopefully he approves.
Yeah, I haven't heard a negative thing yet. So
yeah,
it's got to say something.
Mm-hmm. Well, probably not for 2 weeks, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's the bye week schedule. So what's that?
So it's after the bye week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good. We don't have to do anything for the bye week.
Yeah. Well, take care, man.
All right. We'll see you later, man.
Yeah.
Bye.